Um, what if the smartest, like most expensive artificial intelligence models in the world are about to become just as cheap and, well, frankly, replaceable as the electricity powering the device you're listening to right now?
Yeah, I mean, you never really ask what power plant generated the electricity when you plug in your lamp, right?
Oh, exactly.
You just care that the room lights up.
Right, and if that underlying power source is, no longer the thing that sets a company apart, we have to completely rethink where the actual value of AI lives in a business.
Which is a huge pivot. We are moving out of an era defined by what we call model scarcity.
And that brings us to our mission for this deep dive. Today, we are looking at a fresh white paper and an investor presentation that literally just dropped today, July 29, 2026.
Right.
It's from EON AI Ventures. And the thesis of this document is something they're calling the Great AI Value Migration.
It's a great title.
It really is. The core premise is that if the intelligence of an AI model is essentially becoming a utility, like water or electricity, the new billion-dollar question is, who owns the intelligence that cannot be copied?
Yeah, and it is a massive shifting perspective for anyone in the industry. I mean, for the last 3 years, enterprise strategy has been like completely consumed by this race to license or get access to the most capable frontier model.
Because the assumption was that the model itself was the ultimate prize, right?
Exactly. The smartest brain wins. But to understand why that assumption is falling apart, like literally this week, we have to look at a specific catalyst that's detailed in the EON paper.
Right, the trigger event.
Yes. The trigger for this entire value migration is this new model from Moonshot AI called Kimi K3.
Which is just making massive waves right now.
Oh, absolutely. The specs on Kimi K3 represent a really clear inflection point in the timeline. We are looking at a 2.8 trillion parameter model.
Which is just gigantic.
It's staggering, and it is natively multimodal, so it inherently processes and connects text, audio, and visual data all simultaneously.
So no separate translation layers needed.
Right, exactly. But the defining feature here, the thing that changes the math, is it has a 1 million token context window.
Okay, just to anchor that for you.
Yeah.
1 million tokens is roughly like 750,000 words.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's massive. You could drop entire corporate libraries, decades of maintenance logs, vast code bases, just all into its active memory in a single prompt.
And the AI can just reason across all that instantly.
But having a huge capable model isn't the earthquake, right?
No, the earthquake is what Moonshot AI actually scheduled just 2 days ago on July 27th.
Right.
They were set to release the full model weights for Kimi K3.
And releasing open weights changes the game entirely. I mean,
Right.
you are not just paying per query to access some chatbot through an API anymore.
You're getting the underlying neural architecture itself?
Exactly. You can host it on your own servers, tweak it, run it entirely independently.
Hmm.
It's sort of like, well, it's like hiring a genius intern who has perfectly memorized all of Wikipedia, right? Every physics textbook, the entire internet. This intern is brilliant at general reasoning,
Sure.
but they have absolutely no idea where your office bathroom is.
That is a great way to put it.
Right. Like, they don't know how your specific company approves a vendor contract or about that weird quirk of the freight elevator on the 3rd floor.
Uh-huh.
They have infinite general intelligence, but literally zero specific operational context.
And that gap right there between general knowledge and specific operational context, that is the absolute core of EON's argument in this white paper.
Which is fascinating because EON AI Ventures explicitly states they are not placing a permanent, all-in bet on Kimi K3 itself.
Right, they are maintaining a completely model-agnostic stance.
They're essentially just treating Kimi K3 as a proof of concept for the wider market.
Exactly that. Kimi K3 just proves that frontier scale capability is becoming open, it's controllable, and it's totally substitutable.
Because if you can just download a 2.8 trillion parameter brain for free and run it yourself, then that generic brain is no longer a scarce asset.
No, it's commodity infrastructure.
So if the engine is a commodity, where does a company's actual competitive advantage live? Like, if I'm an enterprise leader who just spent the last 2 years telling my board that our AI model strategy was our moat.
This paper is basically telling you that your moat just evaporated.
Yeah. And this leads us to EON's solution, this concept they call work intelligence.
Right. Work intelligence completely redefines what the scarce asset is in a business. Dan Ledgerskar, he's the founder and chairman of EON AI Ventures. He actually defines it in the release as, quote, the proprietary understanding of how work is actually performed on this asset, at this site, under this procedure, with this risk and this outcome.
The paper uses a really grounded example about a pump, which I think illustrates this perfectly.
Oh yeah, the pump example is great.
Yeah, so an internet-trained model knows everything there is to know about a centrifugal pump in the abstract.
Right.
It understands fluid dynamics, it knows the standard maintenance intervals for that class of machinery, and it can, write a beautiful essay about how a pump works.
But that generic model knows absolutely nothing about your specific pump.
Right.
Work intelligence is knowing that this exact pump in this specific cooling system at, say, your Dallas facility, vibrates slightly at 410 hertz during the winter.
Which is totally normal for that unit.
Exactly. It's perfectly normal for that specific unit, and it's not a sign of failure. And work intelligence knows the exact certified worker who repaired it last, the specific safety harness required for that confined space, and the exact sequence of anomalies recorded over the last 5 years.
Okay, I have to stop you there and push back a little bit.
Okay, go for it.
Because if I'm an IT director listening to this deep dive right now, I'm probably thinking, I already do this. Like, companies are already taking their internal PDFs, their employee handbooks, their maintenance manuals, and they're feeding them into vector databases so their AI chatbot can answer questions about them.
Sure.
So how is work intelligence fundamentally any different from the document retrieval systems that businesses are already building?
That is exactly the trap of the current hype cycle, because feeding a PDF into a database is, well, it's still just a language exercise.
Well,
A manual only tells you how a procedure should theoretically be done.
right.
Work intelligence is fundamentally different because it is rooted in physical, validated execution. It is the operational history of what actually happened in the real world.
So it is the difference between reading the recipe and actually being in the kitchen measuring the flour.
Precisely. Work intelligence includes deterministic safety controls, field evidence, and measured business outcomes. Like, when that technician fixed the pump, how long did it actually take?
Right. Did they follow the safety protocol exactly as mandated?
Were there unexpected workarounds? That data is private by default. And it is incredibly expensive to generate because you actually have to deploy human labor in the physical world to get it.
You can't just scrape it off a website.
Exactly. It is completely invisible to generic web crawlers. The big frontier AI labs cannot scrape this data from the public internet because it lives exclusively inside a company's physical operations.
Okay, that makes sense. That clarifies things. The generic model has all the reasoning power, but none of the experience.
Right.
And work intelligence is the experience.
Yes.
But, that introduces a massive logistical nightmare.
How so?
Well, if I need the AI model to reason over my highly sensitive operational experience, how do I do that without the AI model essentially swallowing all my proprietary secrets?
Ah, right.
Like, you don't want your company's proprietary pump maintenance history becoming part of the public training data for, Kimi K3.
No, definitely not. And that data leakage problem is the primary architectural challenge that EON is solving with what they call the EON proprietary layer. They've designed this governed 5-part architecture that sits above these replaceable AI models. And it ensures the enterprise retains absolute sovereignty over its operational truth.
Let's actually trace how a piece of intelligence moves through this architecture rather than just listing out the 5 parts.
Good idea.
So imagine that technician standing in front of the pump. To give that worker the right instructions, the system first needs to know the history of the equipment.
Right.
EON calls this first layer the customer digital twin.
Yeah, and think of the customer digital twin as the private, completely walled-off operational memory of the enterprise.
Okay.
This is where the exact configurations of your physical assets live. It holds your specific procedures, your historical evidence of work completed, and your approved corporate learnings.
So it's essentially the company's brain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the model does not own this. The enterprise owns it entirely.
But the company's private memory also needs to understand the broader physics of the world, right?
Yes.
And that is where the second layer, the EON Work Intelligence Core, comes in.
Right. The Work Intelligence Core acts as the foundational industrial context. It contains reusable knowledge that EON owns or licenses. Things like baseline equipment recognition, generalized failure patterns, physics models.
So it's the broad industrial knowledge base that kind of supports the highly specific customer digital twin.
Exactly. So the digital twin knows the history of my specific pump, and the Work Intelligence Core knows the physics of why pumps fail in general.
Now we need something to actually analyze all this data.
Right.
Which brings us to the third part. The EON-controlled model portfolio.
Yes.
This is where Kimi K3 or any other open-weight model enters the picture.
And this is where the architecture gets really elegant, because EON curates a portfolio of replaceable models.
Okay.
These models are brought in purely to reason across the data that sits in the digital twin in the core. However, they are never allowed to become the permanent home of that operational truth.
They're just passing through.
Exactly. The models are transient engines. They process the information, they provide the reasoning, and then they are swapped out or spun down.
Let me see if I can offer an analogy for this, because I think the mechanics here are crucial for you to understand.
Go for it.
It sounds like a secure reading room in an intelligence agency, a SCIF.
Oh, yeah.
The AI model is essentially an analyst who is invited into the secure room.
Right.
They're allowed to read the highly classified files. They can do the complex math and connect all the dots, but they have to leave all their notes on the desk before they walk out the door. The data never leaves the facility with the analyst.
That perfectly captures the mechanism. EON calls it their knowledge firewall.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, the reasoning happens, but the memory stays completely local. So once that reasoning is complete, the architecture needs to turn it into something useful for the worker.
Right.
And that happens in the fourth component, which is the work intelligence distillery.
The distillery. So this acts as the manufacturing plant of the system. It takes the operational memory, the physics context, and the AI's reasoning, and refines it all into what EON calls validated mission intelligence packages.
Right. A mission intelligence package is a self-contained, highly specific packet of instructions. It is dynamically generated for a specific worker or even a specific robot to complete a defined task on a specific piece of equipment safely and accurately.
Which brings us to the final step of the architecture. How does that package actually reach the factory floor?
Right, the delivery.
EON calls this the field IQ distribution and learning loop.
Yes, field IQ is the delivery mechanism. It takes those mission intelligence packages out to the physical edge where the actual work is happening.
But it's not just a one-way broadcast, is it?
No, not at all. It is a continuous feedback loop. There's a component called Assess IQ, and it actively measures what happens during the work.
Like, did the intelligence actually improve the outcome?
Exactly. Did the task take less time? Was it safer?
And if the worker found a faster, safer way to complete the procedure, a secondary component called compound IQ kicks in.
Right.
It captures that new operational reality. It validates the outcome, and then it feeds that approved learning all the way back into the customer digital twin.
So the system literally gets smarter every single time a task is performed. The paper provides a fantastic summary of this entire flow, actually.
Oh, what was the quote?
It says, the model is the engine. The digital twin and work intelligence core are the memory. The distillery is the factory. Field IQ is the distribution system.
That is so clean. So the engine can be swapped out tomorrow for a better one, but the factory and the memory stay completely intact, continuously compounding in value.
Yes.
And this separation between the transient reasoning engine and the permanent operational memory becomes even more critical when we step away from human workers entirely and look at the future of robotics.
Absolutely. Because EON makes a very strong case that this specific architecture is the necessary foundation for what they call physical AI.
Because if you have an autonomous robotic arm on an assembly line or, a drone navigating a warehouse, they need something far more robust than just the ability to write a poem or analyze a spreadsheet.
Right. For an autonomous agent to be trustworthy in a physical environment, it requires absolute deterministic boundaries.
Because the stakes are so much higher.
Oh, completely. I mean, an AI model hallucinating a fact in a customer service chatbot is an annoyance.
Yeah.
But an AI model hallucinating a safety envelope in a chemical processing plant, that is a catastrophe.
You absolutely cannot rely on a generic AI model's internal probability to keep a facility safe.
No, you need a system that dictates physical realities. A robot needs the exact facility map. It needs strict asset identity verification.
Right.
It needs defined mission boundaries that explicitly state what it is authorized to touch and what it must avoid. And this is key. It requires an evidence contract to cryptographically prove that it executed the task according to compliance standards.
Dan Legiscar has a quote regarding this that really puts a fine point on it.
Let's hear it.
He states, "The Frontier Labs built powerful engines. EON is building the map, memory, factory safety system, and learning loop for the physical world."
It is a massive undertaking, but I think it's important to point out that EON AI Ventures brings significant credibility to this claim.
They aren't just starting from scratch.
No, they are not a startup that just discovered open weight models last week, right? EON Reality, which is the foundation behind this venture, has actually spent 25 years developing immersive learning, digital twins, and knowledge transfer technology.
They have been doing this for over 2 decades across more than 80 countries.
Exactly. They already have the core ingredients functioning in the real world. Systems for baseline equipment, intelligence, recognition, live operational overlays.
So what this new white paper details is the work intelligence distillery, the manufacturing architecture that finally connects all of those existing proven capabilities into one governed compounding AI system.
Right.
So if you are an enterprise leader listening to this and you're preparing for a strategy meeting about your technology investments, the EON white paper outlines a very clear, immediate execution agenda.
You basically need a way to ensure your operational truth doesn't just become public training data for someone else's generic model.
Exactly.
And the immediate steps EON outlines are highly pragmatic. First, they are aggressively building out the production work intelligence distillery and the model gateway.
Establishing that secure separation between memory and engine.
Right. Second, they are actively benchmarking and switching among different open weight models to mathematically prove the plug-and-play concept in real-world scenarios.
They are basically proving that you really can swap the engine without losing a single drop of the governed memory.
Yes. Third, they are deploying those tightly bounded field IQ mission packages into real industrial environments.
Getting it out into the field.
Exactly. Fourth, they are hardening the knowledge firewall, strictly enforcing explicit ownership rules so that customer private intelligence never leaks back to the frontier AI labs.
Crucial.
And finally, they are ruthlessly measuring the operational delta.
Let's linger on that term for a moment, because the operational delta is ultimately the only metric that matters to a business.
Oh, 100%.
It's not about how many API calls the AI made, right?
No.
It's about measuring the actual physical difference in the work.
Did plant downtime decrease? Did the maintenance take 15% less time? Were safety incidents reduced? By measuring that operational delta, EON proves that the physical execution of work is where the true value lies.
Right.
They are recognizing that as foundation models hypercompete and drive the cost of basic reasoning down to essentially zero, the proprietary operational layer becomes the ultimate gold mine.
We started this deep dive talking about Kimi K3 and the genius intern who memorized Wikipedia.
Yeah.
What EON AI Ventures is making incredibly clear is that the era of simply renting a massive generic brain and calling it an enterprise AI strategy is coming to a close.
It's over.
The great AI value migration is moving away from the commodity engine and toward the proprietary, governed, physical execution of work.
So for anyone responsible for integrating AI into a physical business, this document provides the framework to really see past the hype of, the smartest new chatbot.
Right. You have to look at how AI actually integrates into the physical world.
Bounded by deterministic safety, driven by private operational memory, and measured by tangible, real-world outcomes.
You don't want to own the electricity. You want to own the factory that uses the electricity to build something no one else can copy.
That is the essence of work intelligence right there.
But as we wrap up this deep dive into EON's white paper, there is a lingering implication here that we actually haven't touched on yet, and it's a final thought I want to leave you with.
Oh, what's the thread you're pulling on?
Well, just follow the logic of the system we just described.
Okay.
If work intelligence is built by capturing, encoding, and perfectly compounding the exact procedures of how expert work is done in the physical world,
right,
what happens to the human experts?
Oh.
Once all of their hard-earned operational history, their physical experience, and their validated work episodes are perfectly distilled by that factory into these mission intelligence packages, what is the ongoing role of the human worker?
That's a great question.
Do they simply become passive supervisors of this perfectly governed system? Or does this intelligence flywheel eventually compound and learn to a point where it completely outgrows the need for the human expert entirely?
It forces us to ask what happens when a system captures operational truth so perfectly that it knows exactly how to do the work better than any single human ever could.
Exactly. Just something for you to mull over the next time you plug a device into the wall and expect it to just work.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the EON AI Ventures white paper. We will catch you next time.